So for this reading, we're doing a should I, shouldn't I spread. And the question was whether she should be branching out her healing business to help people, or whether she should concentrate and continue concentrating on animal healing. Just a quick overview of the business we're referring to here. So, this individual has a healing business which will use a variety of essential oils, energy healing, all very intuitive, which I think is amazing, mostly on the animal side since they cannot communicate with us. So, I think it's really great that there is a service out there, and until I had a chat with her, I wasn't aware of that service being provided or available. So I'm just taking a quick minute to kind of branch out and spread out the awareness of such a service. So, but in this particular case, she's wondering whether she should branch out and start offering the same healing to people as well, or whether she'd better to stay with the animals. So we did a should I, shouldn't I spread to see what the cards have to say. So for this reading, I will be using the Witch's Tarot deck. And this spread has 9 cards. And I'll just go over the position of each cards here. So the first 3 talk about what may happen if you do what you're contemplating. So what will happen if you do go ahead and branch out and start offering those type of services to people. The next 3 cards here indicates what will happen if you maintain what is, and instead of branching out to people, concentrate on growing your business on the animal healing side. Then we have the outcome of what it would look like if you do branch out to people healing, and the outcome if you concentrate on the animal healing business. And then we have the final card here, which is something you should consider before you make a decision one way or the other. Now, before I get started, I would just like to do a quick prayer. I call upon my angels and my guides to please be in contact and communication with Aquarius angels and guides. May you provide a clear and accurate reading. I also call upon Archangel Michael to please protect this reading in white light so that only divine messages may come through. So let's get started. For the first card, we have the Page of Cups reversed. So Cups talks more about the emotional side, and Page, now when I see a royal in a reading, I view that as representing an individual specifically. Page tends to talk about either a child or someone who has childlike energy or someone who's at a beginning stage of a situation or an event. Now, in this case, I'm viewing this as the third example there. So, should you branch out into healing, your healing business to serving people, I see this page as being like this is the beginning stages because you're branching into kind of uncharted territories, right? So that page could represent you in that situation starting out. Now this is the cup, so emotion side, but it is in the reverse situation. So this card is telling us that, well, normally it talks about ignoring your intuition and your psychic gifts or refusing to commit to your studies. But with this card in this situation with the Page of the Cups with the emotion, I think there's a bit of a lack of confidence there. There's some concern, worries about, interacting with people is definitely different dynamic than interacting with animals. And I think that that's kind of part of the concerns, like here you would be kind of getting into new uncharted territories, and I think emotionally you would feel a little bit unprepared for that. The next card that we have is the Page of Sword reverse. A lot of page on this side here. So again, Page starting a new situation here. Now this time it's on the sword. Sword talks about ideas, mindset, concepts, it's logic. This is kind of what happens in the mind, right? So for the Page of Sword, it talks about tension, rush actions, using physical forces when it isn't necessary. And what I'm kind of seeing this is saying here is that you will feel that you've made that trend. Like, should you go ahead and start branching out into the people healing, it's too soon. It'll feel like it's too soon. Um, you would be kind of forcing it, right? Like, it's not the natural next step for you. Is kind of how I feel. Like, if you end up doing that step, I think it's kind of a little bit forced, and it's just not quite, everything is not quite set as it should be yet. The next card that we have, the third card, is the Ten of Sword reverse. Sword still talks about that concept, the ideals, the mindset, the logic. I mean, it's a bit of a kind of a quite the image to look at. This is a gentleman laying down with 10 swords coming out of his back. So it's a bit of a dreaded visual for sure here. Now, with this particular one, it is in the reverse situation. What this is telling us is like physical harm from other, a negative or unmoral group of people, unfairly becoming the scapegoat for a group and all of its problem. So kind of what I'm getting is, going into that right now, I think you might get some negative feedback. But not only are you going to get negative feedback, but that would affect you a little bit more than, like it would affect you and kind of interfere with this whole thing. Now, let's have a look as what would happen if you just kind of carry on, continue growing your animal healing business. And with the first one here we have is the King of Wands. So again, another royal. So I see this one as referring to an individual. And the king is somebody who's either older, or somebody who's kind of wiser, or somebody who's in a situation is a lot more experienced. And now this card here talks about this person's a mover and a shaker. Somebody who's charming, outgoing, energetic, and generous. Mentoring others, enthusiastic, artistic expression, creativity. What I'm seeing this card to say is, with what you're doing now, the animal healing, you have a much higher sense of success there because you're comfortable there. You understand what you're doing there. You have a lot more experience. So the confidence that you have while playing that role is a lot higher than should you transition and trying to go into healing people. So that's the first card that I see. Now the next card that we have here is the we have the Nine of Swords in the reverse situation. So swords, again, ideas, logic, concept. The Nine of Swords normally talks about anxiety, things that are kind of worries that are keeping you up at night, right? In this case, it talks about suspicion, fear, anxiety, uninvited, unrepentant psychic vampire. I'm seeing this card to be self-doubt. You kind of worry about whether it's working out, whether what people are going to be thinking, and that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of kind of concern and anxiety a little bit associated with what you're doing. This card is kind of saying you're going to have to get rid of that. Like, get rid of that. And that's where that psychic vampire is, right? Like, those doubts are just gnawing away at you, and it's kind of just eating away at you. So we're going to have to clear that out. Next card that we have here is the Page of Pentacles reversed. I think we're going to pull out every page in this reading, apparently. So again, another royal, which indicates an individual. I still think this is talking about you. The page is kind of talking about the the child, the childlike energy, or the person in the beginning stages, and I still kind of think it's in that, like the beginning stages of this business. Pentacles is the resources, right? So I'm kind of visualizing that a little bit more about the business itself, right? So for the Page of Pentacles, it kind of talks about feeling smothered or trapped and lack of focus. So, and I think kind of like the lack of focus to me kind of resonate a little bit more with me. It kind of seems like the way your business is going, you're not quite sure on how to grow, how to branch out, how to brand yourself, right? And then there's, I think that's kind of creating a lack of focus on the business side of it. Unfortunately, for people such as healers, when you're running it as a business, it's not just the skills, it's going to have to be the business savvy part of it as well. And I think that this is where it's coming. That's not quite there. You're still at a beginning stages there, and that's going to need to develop as well. Now, let's have a look at the Outlook cards. So the first one is the Outlook if you were going to be branching out into healing people. What has come up on that one is we have the Sun reversed. Now the Sun is a major arcana, so it tends to be the type of cards that I kind of like to pay especially close attention to. The minor arcana will tend to hit the kind of more day-to-day thing. This is something like, oh, careful, this is major, pay attention to this, right? So for the Sun in reverse, it talks about needing to come back to reality. About competition, the demand of being in the public eye. So I'm kind of seeing, if you do go ahead, start doing the healing for people. The Sun normally is a very positive card, but because it's in the reverse situation, I'm kind of seeing there'll be struggles there. For one, I think you'll come across a lot more competition. There's going to be a lot more different services that's offering similar things that you will be kind of getting competition with. While on the animal side, there's a lot less being offered, right? Second thing I'm kind of getting to with being in the public eye. When you're dealing with people and you have to kind of like, people are going to be a little bit more judgmental. And I think that's the type of thing that you'll get a little cautious about. You have a little bit of worry about what people would be thinking, right? So this may be creating a little bit more of a anxiety, I guess, a little bit in this side, right? So careful if you do branch out, and I definitely think that eventually you should branch out into healing people. Although I think your services will be best served with animals because that's such a unique and it's not as oftenly offered. But I think now maybe is not quite the right time. Now, let's have a look at what the outlook is should you just keep growing your animal healing business. And for that one, we have the Five of Swords in the upright position. So with the Five of Swords against Swords is the ideas, the concepts, the thoughts, the logic, what's happening in the mind. The Five of Swords talks about embarrassment. It's kind of, the card kind of means kind of like learn to laugh at yourself and keep going forward. So now in the reverse situation, that would kind of really be a little bit more like crippling. In this case, it's kind of saying, you know what, not everything's going to be smooth sailing. Not everybody's going to understand what you're doing. You will get some of that negative judgmental feedback a little bit or that sort of stuff, but you just going to have to kind of learn to laugh at yourself, keep going. Don't be worried about what people think of yourself or if something happens and you find it's embarrassing. Just be proud of who you are and kind of keep going. So I do see this as a fairly positive card. It does mean that, like, I think it's going to be a little bit against your norm, right? You don't have quite yet the full confidence that you need to kind of, and this is showing that there's a bit of work that'll need to happen on that side, but I definitely think that you should. Now, the final card, this is what you need to consider before you make a decision one way or the other. And for this card, we have the Queen of Wands. Again, a royal. Now, when we see wands, it's more about actions, steps kind of going forward, that sort of stuff, things moving forward. And then the Queen, the royal, so the Queen represents somebody who's a little bit more mature, both in age or potentially in energy. So somebody who's more mature, more confident, right? When I see this card here, it's kind of saying it's somebody who's talented, a natural leader for a group, the ultimate multitasker. This person is popular, outgoing, she's fun-loving, she's charming, cheerful, and classy. Now this is representing you. This is who you are. Now, with what the cards are kind of saying, your confidence is not there. You need to build that up. But deep down inside, mostly when you're doing your healing work, this is who you are. And you know that. You know this is who you are. You know you're all of these things. You're an amazing person, an amazing woman. And you just need to kind of continue developing that. And bringing that person out so that she can come and shine and be successful as she's supposed to be. Now, the cards are kind of coming up, and we've done a few readings with you, so we know that your guides are helping you throughout this, so take comfort in that. You're not alone kind of going through that throughout the path and like kind of your development. But like either way, the way you're going to do, the decision you're gonna make is gonna be a great successful decision for you, as long as you take the time to first work on yourself and onto your confidence, and that you allow that woman to become to be. Well, I hope that this reading resonated with you. Have a blessed day.